There are a few moments in life when time stands still, where you remember exactly where you were, what you felt, and how everything changed. 9/11 is one of those moments. In this episode, we're going back, not to relive the trauma, but to reflect on how that day shaped us. We'll share where we were and what we carried forward. Welcome to Motherhood and the Messy Middle, where grade school meets grown kids, hot flashes meet holy fire, and no topic is too messy for this village. I'm Robin, one half of the voice behind this podcast. Nicole and I are two moms who slid into each other's DMs and built a virtual village where we are inviting you into our honest, healing, and often hilarious conversations that help you feel not so alone in the beautiful chaos of motherhood and midlife. We talk about what it really means to mother, to grow, to fall apart, and rebuild, spiritually, emotionally, hormonally, and sometimes all before breakfast. So whether you're in the thick of motherhood, facing perimenopause, praying hard, or just tired of pretending you're fine, this space is for you. Let's dive in. Well, hi, Nicole.
Hi.
24 years ago that 9/11 happened, and it's one of those moments, I feel like for our parents' generation, they hold this one as well, but it was like the first man landing on the moon, where everyone could say where they were.
Right.
And for us, it's 9/11.
Right.
So where were you? What was going on in your life?
I was a child sleeping in my bed, and my dad we lived in Washington, so we were, quite a few hours behind. And I remember my dad, I was homeschooled, and so my dad came in, I don't know, I guess it must have been before he was at work, but he came in and woke us up, and we went and we sat on their bed and watched it. And I remember him saying something like, you're watching some like historic, not in like a proudful way, but like in a, this is impactful. You're of age to be able to sit here and take it in. And that's what we're going to do. And then I remember the days that followed, just like being glued to our TVs, watching the news.
Yeah.
Like we went to our friends' houses and we sat and watched the news.
Yep,
at our
together.
friends' houses. Yeah. All together. And I remember buying the magazines, and that I still have magazines and newspapers because I bought them then knowing that it was a historic moment. So I still have them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I remember thinking, and yeah, I actually wrote something and submitted it, and they published it in the newspaper of like a poem or something about it. But yeah, so I kept all these memorabilia things because I knew it was some historic thing. And that's kind of interesting to pull out and like show the kids. If I feel like it feels more real than what they learn at school. Like, I feel like it's probably the same as when my grandfather used to pull out things from like World War II or something. I don't know. Yeah. Where were you?
Well, so you were a teenager. So you were like even though you're homeschooled, it was like a junior in high school?
Yeah,
sophomore or junior?
Yeah, I'm 39 right now.
I can't do that math on the fly.
I
Everybody
know.
has that
Hold on.
expectation for me as a former math teacher.
I
It's
do
just not
though.
fair.
I do. Okay, I'll do the math. Hold on. I was 15. So I would have only been, sophomore.
Yeah.
Maybe a junior. Yeah.
I was a sophomore in college, and I remember the pounding on my door of my the second year of college. I had lived in a dorm where a bunch of us decided to stay for the second year instead of going and getting apartments because there were single rooms in that dorm, and we were able to choose our rooms the year prior. And so we had this cluster, and it was a really great time. But what wasn't a great time was the pound on my door of my next door neighbor, who was at the time my best friend, and us all doing what you just said, getting together and watching the television and watching it happen. I was in the central time zone, so we were just an hour behind real time. And I remember watching the towers collapse and just this fear. Cell phones were very new. I had a corded phone in my dorm room, but did I have a cell phone at that? I don't even think I had a cell phone at that time. Maybe I did. I can't remember. But I remember the corded phones, you couldn't make a phone call. Because
so
everyone was, you were with your parents, but I wasn't with my parents.
Right.
And
So you're
I
calling.
was trying to call them, and they were trying to call me, and we couldn't get a hold of each other. And the thing that I actually, this is an odd thing, but I still vividly remember this, and I'm still pretty upset about it. And I do a lot to work on releasing resentment and all of those things. But as a sophomore in college, one of the electives that I had chosen was politics and violence. That was an elective that I was enrolled in when 9/11 happened. And it was a 1 night a week class. And I can't remember the day of the week that it happened. We probably could look it up after this, but that was the night that I had class. And being the person who I still am today, that I love being with people and I love education, I thought, wow, I can't wait to go to class because this is literally politics and violence. And I'm going to be able to be with an elder, with somebody who has their PhD,
some wisdom
to understand what's going on and like what this is and the bigger picture of how can something like this happen. And all of our classes were canceled, including that class. And I remember being really upset about that, but like, okay, I understand. And then the next week when we went to class, he didn't want to talk about it. He didn't want to talk about it. And I was fuming. How can you not, how can you call yourself an educator, a professor? We have real history being made, and you have students in front of you, and, you know, we're talking about something from hundreds of years ago. I don't care if it's in the curriculum. We need to drop the curriculum and talk
meet
about
people with what's happening.
Yeah,
that's really interesting.
Yeah, I'm still bitter.
I
don't know the professor's name. I feel like if I did, I would call him out right now just because.
Yeah. It seems like that was definitely probably more of self-preservation for him, of not wanting to discuss this super unknown, I remember my dad telling me, like, we'll go to war. And like that feeling, I mean, obviously that is a big deal, but because he was like, we won't not retaliate. This is America. So, but I imagine that there's still like so many factors of unknown, maybe for that teacher, that he just decided, I'm going to stick with ignorance. I'm going to stick with putting my head in the sand. Ignorance probably maybe not the right word, but.
Yeah. I mean, I can offer, I practice compassion. I can offer compassion for that, but my angsty teenage self is still 100% angsty. And it's interesting you bring up like the retaliation and the military piece, because I have several people that were in my life at the time that were in the National Guard, and that it did significantly impact their
Did they
time
get called
of
up?
duty. They didn't get called up because it was still the National Guard, but there were people that that did different things with their service, and there was a lot of fear around it. And there's a friend that I have now into adulthood, and part of his story is that he enlisted right after 9/11 because he felt this call to defend our nation. And there's a lot of work that I do in building inner fitness and examining different topics and looking for the light in all of them. And I think about 9/11 a lot. I think about the grander scale and about the retaliation, and even how we are as Americans. Even if I don't necessarily agree with those pieces, and I don't I wouldn't respond in the same way. I'm still an American. So
Mm-hmm.
that's part of what our culture is. And I wonder if we hadn't retaliated in the same way. What, I don't know, if we had allowed more space. I don't know. I think about
I
that a
don't
lot
know.
though,
I don't
because the
know.
reaction, that's what a retaliation is. It's a reaction. It's not mourning. It's not grief. I feel like that was the thing that I wanted with that professor.
Was
I
the space
wanted,
to grieve?
yes. And even when you said,
Mm-hmm.
I remember being with other people and sitting there and watching the television, like
Mm-hmm.
that's, you know me, I am very intimately familiar with grief.
Mm-hmm.
And there is, we as humans, we want connection, but there is no more profound of a time than when you are grieving to be connected with people and to
Right.
create just space for moving through what it is
Right.
versus stuffing it down
Mm-hmm.
and grabbing a bottle of vodka to numb the pain, or
Sure.
stuffing it down and then, reacting and getting violent as a retaliatory
Mm-hmm.
thing. And I'm not a world leader. I
Right.
don't understand. I can't comprehend
Mm-hmm.
the weight of what all of those pieces are, but I am a relentless pursuer of love
Mm-hmm.
and of light and of Christ consciousness. And I
Mm-hmm.
just don't see reactions being the way to heal.
Yeah, I guess I would argue that from a world leader perspective, they weren't concerned about healing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I
I don't
mean,
think you're
I don't
arguing with
have,
me. I agree with you.
yeah, I don't have great insight into to all of that. But I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I also don't know how else we could have responded that, like, it feels like we had to respond, right? Like you can't just let it happen and not respond.
It's a question that I agree with you and I don't. Like, I don't know what
Right.
the answer is. And I'm in a
Right.
stage in my life where I am afraid for what the future is going to hold if we
Mm,
continue to operate in the same way that we have, with the level and the scale of destruction that we can give. Even when we're
mm,
talking about like artificial intelligence and just the how things
mm-hmm.
grow so fast. And if we just continue to be reactionary, that's kind of a piece that, like, the bigger piece for me around when I think about 9/11 is the shaping of that time and
Mm.
how many tiny things even were impacted. Like travel never looked the same after 9/11.
Right. Well, this isn't directly 9/11, but soon after, recent time after 9/11, the shoe bomber guy happened.
Yeah.
And they just now, within the last like 2 weeks, lifted that you have to take off your shoe. You can now like wear your shoes through security.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's all of these things that are, and I understand that, right? We have to do so many things in order to make sure that we preserve safety and security. And I don't necessarily disagree with the way that history has unfolded. I just am in a space right now, and maybe this is my, elder years and the fact that I create a lot of spaces with women who are in perimenopause and
Mm-hmm.
beyond and have a lot of spiritual deepening questions
Mm-hmm.
where I'm not looking for one solution. I'm just asking questions and I'm feeling
Well, and I think
this pull around it,
well, and I think that's where, and even now I get nervous about questions, but we shouldn't be nervous about questions. But yeah, that as a society, it's become where it's not safe to ask questions because
Mm.
it seems as if it's harder to ask questions. It feels like we have to pick a side. You have to be on one side or the other side. And if you're kind of are questioning either or just have questions in general, then it feels like you're going to be attacked.
Mm-hmm.
And even we're like friends and I still get nervous. Like, oh, we're treading onto territory that I don't know. I know what I think, but I don't really know why I think that. And I have questions, but I don't really know if they're fair questions, and then I get nervous to ask the questions.
Yeah. And you know
Like,
what that relates
and
to
this is a
is your
safe
sense of
space.
safety and security, though. But it
Yeah.
is because what if, right? And we've never met in person. Like, if you ghost me, we're
Right.
gone. You know, we have
Well, and
so
that
much
happens
faith
in
and trust.
relationships
It
all
does
of the
because
time.
we're
We hear about it
human.
all of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Even mom is walking through estrangement. So I have thousands of comments on my posts, and so many are saying we voted differently. We had different
Mm-hmm.
political views, and that's what
Mm-hmm.
caused estrangement from their parents.
Yes. Yes.
That's
I'm seeing it
insane.
all the time. It is insane. And yet, what I am saying in my observation and sharing my heart and this feeling of what if
Right.
it had been different,
Sure.
that is vulnerability, right? And
Yeah.
just questioning and being open. And to go on a tangential piece, earlier this summer, I had a big family gathering with extended family, and my cousin's son is extremely conservative, like
Mm-hmm.
the end of as conservative as you possibly can get, would vote red up and down, full supporter of the current administration, posts on social media about that. It has caused significant rifts with several of my family members who lean less liberal than I do.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, him and I stayed up until 2:00 in the morning talking.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he had to
It's
have quite a
beautiful.
few libations in order to do
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah.
But we ended up talking about God.
Mm-hmm.
And we ended up talking about a lot of things that were really vulnerable. And
Mm-hmm.
I, am a couple decades older than him.
Mm-hmm.
He's in his early 20s. And I tread really carefully, not because I'm not powerful and strong and all of those things, but I tread carefully because I care. And
Right.
because I don't want him to just think how I think. I want him to deepen.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can have conversations or use things like this profound moment that is clear that it was a crime, there is grief, it has shaped our nation, but just to
Mm-hmm.
take pause, right?
Mm-hmm.
And take pause and think, what could be different, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is it? What are we following? Why are these things?
Mm-hmm.
And knowing that asking a question doesn't mean you have to know the answer.
Yeah, I think that's where
That's
it
the
gets
holding space that we keep going back
right.
to, right?
Yeah. I'm not great at, I'm not, and you know this, like I talk a lot about being uncomfortable, getting comfortable, being really uncomfortable. Where I do not exercise that is politics. It's not something my husband and I discuss. It's not something that I then feel comfortable. I mean, my husband and I discuss it to each other, but I'm saying like we don't have open conversations with other people about it because I don't want to have to get into a debate because I will lose at a debate because I am more curious than I am like know facts. And I will more likely just take in information, but then I don't want somebody to get defensive when I ask a question. And so it's not a discussion that's happening. And to be honest, like we're discussing it very minimally in our marriage as well. And because it's just it's one area where I am definitely leaning into. I don't want to be comfortable in the discomfort. I just am uncomfortable.
Well, it's funny to me because it's like there's an old saying that's like you never talk about like religion, sex,
Right.
or politics.
Mhm.
And
I'll talk about religion and sex all day long,
Yeah.
but don't talk about politics.
and I'm like, let's talk about all three. Let's just do it. Let's just see what happens. But
it gets so for me, it gets. My husband was in the Marine Corps, and
Mhm.
he was stationed in Australia when 9/11 happened, and so his version
Wow.
is much different. Like
Yeah.
he knew immediately what was going to be happening.
Yeah.
They immediately told him what was going to be happening, and he was one of, he went to war and he experienced
Mhm.
that, and so his perspective is different than my little 15-year-old perspective.
Yeah.
And he was a very young man, and so it shaped a lot of his perspective and not necessarily in the way you would think, but so it gets a little unclear, a little foggy.
Yeah.
on like how we navigate those conversations. Not that we
Well,
can't
but what
navigate
you
them
said
together,
was
but
so true is that people are not having conversations. They're not conversing. They're debating and just
right,
wanting to be right. And there's
right.
a very different energy around that than leading with curiosity and compassion. And that actually leads me to, I'm not going to do this very often, but right now as we're recording this, I'm facilitating a spiritual deepening book study.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this book called The Book of Joy, which is an interview between the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu. So it's really where it's the cross section of Christianity and Buddhism, which essentially explains who I am, right? Like that's
So true.
that's me. And
Mm-hmm.
in here, there's a little passage that the Archbishop says, it's incredible just how compassionate and generous people can be. And this is in response to asking the question, how do we have joy in the midst of so much pain and suffering? In the midst of, so if you don't know who Archbishop Desmond Tutu is, he was in South Africa and serving as a bishop during the time of Nelson Mandela and the apartheid. And
Mm-hmm.
he is Black, and he died in 2021 or 2022. But this book was written during the Dalai Lama's 80th birthday celebration. And at the time, Desmond Tutu was 82, I believe. But this man has been through like literal hell and back and continued to have a strong relationship with Christ and lead others to that relationship throughout his time. And, I mean, we're talking like friends and family of his were brutally taken and killed. And him and the Dalai Lama both didn't want to necessarily be involved with politics, but they have to. That's part of who and what they were and the time that they were put into. So they're trying to answer these questions. And the Archbishop says, when a disaster such as 9/11 happens, we realize we are family. We are family. Those people in the Twin Towers are our sisters and brothers. But even more startlingly, the people who are piloting those planes, they are our sisters and brothers. You have a tsunami happen and you have seen the outpouring of love and compassion and caring. I mean, you don't know the victims from a brass farthing, and people just gave and gave and gave because that's actually who we really are. That one line in the middle of that passage, we are all brothers and sisters, even the perpetrators of terrible, terrible acts. They are still human. And I don't know what any of the answers are, but I know that 9/11 and having that vivid memory for me and all of the different pieces that it brings up, it just continues to turn in my head and my heart around not just preventing something like that from happening, but how can we see the humanity and work in this world to bring the messages of Buddhists and Christians, all of the different walks together, because really it has to be possible. Like God wouldn't have delivered us into this time and space if it wasn't possible.
I think it takes me back to like we live in a fallen world. Like this, we live in a world full of sin, and we need Jesus. Like it's just I don't think that there's an end to sin, which means there's not an end to evil and there's not an end to any of that, because we need Jesus, and until everybody finds Jesus, that's what we're up against.
And I agree with you and extend
That did not sound very poetic or
no, I
well
think that
worded,
it sounded
but
really poetic, because I agree with you and extend it to more than finding. It's living the teachings. It's loving thy neighbor means not just the neighbor that lives next door to you. It means the neighbor that is around the world.
Mm.
It means the neighbor that is the exact opposite on the political spectrum as you. And
Mm-hmm.
for me, for me to get really real, for me, that neighbor, and part of the reason that I have been able to come to Christ and that I live and do the work that I do is because that neighbor was the man that murdered my mom in front of me when I was in kindergarten.
Mm-hmm.
And the greatest gift that I gave myself was forgiving him, not on a human level, but on a soul level, on a level of how do we, what was I feeling were the barriers for me to live in the world in a way that could feel more connected. And it was because I was holding on to fear and hatred and resentment and wanting to retaliate and wanting to do all of those things. And and this is not a simple thing. It's a continual practice for me.
Right.
But once I opened up and I had to have a complete breakdown to then, for me, it was through Christianity to come into the light of God and see all of the different pieces that could exist for me. That's when I started to be able to just see the possibilities that are there. And, this is a dark day. This is a dark day in our history in the world. And yet through the darkness, there's always light. And, we started just with a conversation on where were you? Because that's the reality, right? That's how we connect. But we also can hold space for not knowing and just questioning and what does it bring up? And that's the messy middle of
life.
Of life.
Yeah.
Of life. That so many of us are trying to skirt around, right?
Yeah.
And
because it's more comfortable.
It is. But as mothers, we have villages that should be safe spaces to have courageous conversations, not debates.
Yeah.
And to hold space to, get deeper. But the thread that weaves everything in between that is the spiritual connection with whatever higher power you choose to call it.
Yeah. I agree.
So with that, I just appreciate you.
I appreciate you.
Thank you for walking with me to, the full spectrum of Robin, who really doesn't like the small talk. Let's just, dive right into the deep end.
It's been good for me because I don't talk about it. And it makes me nervous to talk about.
So why don't you just, meet some woman who slides into your DMs cross
who I've never met in person yet.
No, you have this soul connection, but you're completely different in so many different ways. Get on a podcast together and get vulnerable. Yeah, let's see.
That sounds fun.
Who you can thank? You can thank Jesus. Yep, that's who brought us together.
And we're learning, we're learning and we're growing, and we're not. I think it's a great depiction of we're not coming on this podcast to tell you everything we know and how we know it. It's right. We're just existing and talking about it with you, together, because that's what we should all be doing.
It's what we should be doing. And none of us are God. We don't have all of the answers. We just have opportunities to connect.
Yep.
So with this connecting conversation, we hope that it gave you some space. Just some space to maybe stir up some things, but also to settle in the knowing that you are seen and you are held, and that you have the ability to connect with others who will see and hold you. We'd love to hear where you were, how this conversation shaped your thoughts, even the rest of your day. Feel free to email us. We'd love to hear from you. But
you can email Robin. Robin will probably respond. I
keep our email inbox very clear.
She'll respond because it's politics and I'll be nervous.
But as always, if this episode resonates, we invite you to share it with another mom who's walking in this messy middle of life, of memory, of motherhood. And we will see you for all of our different conversations soon.
Bye, guys.
Hey, before you go, we've got something just for you. We created the Motherhood and the Messy Middle Resource Vault. It's a growing library of support that's just for you. So inside, you're going to find tools from both Nicole and my work, plus resources that we mention right here on the podcast. It's free, it's sent straight to your inbox, and it's always evolving, just like you. So take what you need, leave the rest. You never know when you're going to need it or when your group chat might thank you for it. So use the link in the show notes or head to motherhoodandthemessymiddle.com to get access, and welcome to your virtual village.